Can I ask you what, like you said, Liam, it's not openly explicit as such in terms of graphicizing it, but obviously the language is quite explicit. What would each of you? What certificate would you give it? I know it was in 2001, but what certificate would you give it, Tom? If it was being released in the UK now, what certificate would you give it?
I mean, I feel that's a weird question because you'd have to give it an 18 because there's full frontal nudity throughout.
I thought I downloaded the wrong film at first in that opening scene.
It would. You'd have to give it, like, the standard agencies, whatever it's called, would give it an 18. But I mean, like, 16-year-olds could probably watch it. I don't think it's too graphic. Like I said, I thought the sex scenes were a little bit weird just because of the age differential. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of 16-year-olds will be quite excited to watch some of those scenes.
Yeah, I mean, if you all agree with that, I only asked because Alfonso Cuaron and Carlos Cuaron were really angry at the time when the Mexican Film Board gave it an 18. They didn't believe it was an 18. They didn't believe it was that explicit in that way. Whether or not, I haven't done that much research into that, but whether it's because they wanted it to reach a wider audience or whether they thought it could be politicizing in a way of showing that, I don't know. But there was a massive
in the first half hour.
There was massive fury from them, but that it was given an 18.
If they had softened the first half hour, it would, because there was two, like in the first 5 minutes, two like really explicit scenes, and then quite a bit of drug, like far more drug use than just the odd joint throughout the rest of the film. It probably, if it wasn't for that first hour, I wouldn't give it an 18. So I think.
I understand why the film board would have like argued that it was an 18. Like, I think it's fairly self-evident why it would be given that certificate. But I also understand why Cuaron and his brother, isn't it, that helped him write the script.
Carlos,
I understand why they would have wanted it to reach, maybe be given a 15 because it's a coming of age movie. I think it's probably quite a useful thing for like somebody between the ages of 15 and 18 to see. Because it's there's a lot of solid ideas, messages. There's a lot of interesting reflections on the culture, and it's something that someone between the age of 15 and 18 could benefit from. I don't know if it's commercial. Cuaron doesn't strike me as the kind of guy who would get het up about that sort of thing. I imagine that it was probably more like, we'd like these kids to be able to see it.
Do you think if someone Mexican watched the film, they'd have a better or different experience to us, and kind of how?
I think if we were saying before that we think a lot of it was potentially ad-libbed or unscripted, I think that's really difficult to tell, not speaking the language. Obviously, they did seem like a lot of the interactions were really, really genuine, completely. But I think without actually understanding what they're saying in the moment, rather than reading subtitles, it's always difficult to interpret that. I didn't have any issues with it being in Spanish at all.
It would be incredible. I think it'd be incredibly weird to not watch it in Spanish. To be honest, I think if it was in English, I think it would look totally bizarre being said.
Everything about the film is that culture.
Yeah, I think it would be so weird.
Yeah. It would be incredibly difficult to dub as well. It'd be terrible.
Imagine watching a dubbed copy. Jesus.
They speak quite fast, so
yeah.
Sometimes I had the problem, probably more so with this than other films, just because they speak so quickly. That I was trying to read and watch at the same time, so I did have my eyes jumping around a little bit. And clearly Mexicans wouldn't have that issue.
Nice length though. No, not one that if you're reading subtitles and stuff, it's one that you can knuckle down and focus on. What's it, about an hour and 45 minutes? It's one that you can definitely. Not that I watched it in one part, but you definitely can. I know you guys probably did. There's I have a habit of doing that. My view of films is blurred by whether I watch it in one or watch it in half. Because I could think the Bandit was incredible because I watched it in 4 parts. So I didn't suffer through it all in one go. So yeah. But what were the main focal points that people didn't like about it then? Other than maybe the dynamic of the ages and the plausibility of some parts of the script. Is there anything else in particular that any of you guys didn't particularly like or enjoy about Y Tu Mamá También?
Can I just ask another question quickly about the female and her age difference and maybe her characterization, motivation, etc. Do you know the line that she supposedly the last line that she spoke to the boys, before she left them, which was something along the lines of like life being like the surf, and so giving yourself away like the sea or something like that. Do you not think that sums up her philosophy and therefore her relationship with the boys? Does that not cover the base for you?
Yeah, I think that rang home even more once you find out.
Covers her circumstances at the time, doesn't it? Yeah. Tom?
I don't know, I felt like it was a bit of a throwaway line. Because there's nothing that indicates that she's that free-spirited until she has that breakdown moment and decides to go away with them. Because it's like a trip of realization for her, and then all of a sudden at the end she's the wise sage, which I didn't read into at any point until that last line, really.
But she's with when she's like, she's with those kids. She doesn't have kids, and she's sitting there talking to the grandmother, and she seems pretty wise and pretty, attuned to, the marginalized communities and whatnot. She seemed as if she could very well live in that place, but she just hadn't really given herself the opportunity to until the trip came about. That's what I found anyway when I watched it, was that she was just waiting for a break, and as soon as she was given that opportunity, she's the one who rings the boys in the first place. So it seems like it's in her character to be free-spirited and liberate herself and whatnot, but it just took something circumstantially to have her make the jump.
Do you think though, Liam, perhaps that light bulb moment and that turn in her perspective was just a bit too quick for her then to be lecturing the boys about that sort of thing? To be then start being like,
the boys were coming over really kind of like top. The boys were coming over pretty, high-ended and possibly arrogant at times, when they're talking about all of the rules of their club, and she's obviously buying into that and believing it, and then they're kind of just fucking it, and she, when they end up having that argument, she wants to leave. I feel like she's fair enough. It's like these boys have kind of like
just highlighted their naivety.
Turns out to be these big kind of like freewheeling, easy spirits, but actually they can be arseholes and stuff to each other. So she put them in their place to some extent, and that worked for me.
I don't think she ever bought into those rules. I think she thought it was cute. I think the whole way through she just thinks, these guys are quite cute, like I'll go along with them. That's why she's always like crying behind their backs and stuff. Those are the moments where she's kind of realising like, what the hell am I doing, kind of thing. I don't got that she ever bought into it and then was disappointed in them. I think she knew they were little kids the whole way through.
I thought she was crying because she was still trying to get over the parting ways with the boyfriend. I didn't think she was crying because she was.
I'd agree with both.
I think it's probably a combination of the two. She's probably like, what the hell is going on in my life? I'm breaking up with him because he's cheating on me. I'm way in the middle of nowhere with two little kids. I'm fucking around with them, and then she like snaps back into going off the rails. I guess she realised at the end it's because she knows she's dying, but the whole way through, that's what I got from it.
But we have a different stance. I thought she was just, crying because of the boyfriend and then trying to get back to the fun of it all.
To be fair, before finding out more towards the end about her, I did have that sort of idea that she was just sort of that post-breakup wild side where she was like, fuck it, I'll go do this, I'll go do that, and then having those realizations of like, I just want to be back with him or whatever. But obviously that's different by the end. But I'd agree with both of your points though on that. It is just sort of a roller coaster of emotions for every character, and ultimately it's meant to tie together nicely at the end in a bow, and then that's up to the viewer's opinion of whether it works or not with the ending that it has. Are there any other burning points that people want to make before we rate it?
Let's rate it.
Well, it was a $5 million budget. So like you say, Liam, with the cinematography and all that, maybe a lot of it was just sort of, done on a whim, and we'll film this and we'll film that, and why don't we go out in the cars filming as we go, and we'll just gather half of the source material as we go. As it made $33 million at the box office, so it made a fairly decent profit, 6 times its budget. And like you said, Liam, it was sort of one of those films that it was a springboard for Alfonso Cuaron onto the main Hollywood circuit, with Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban following fairly shortly. Let's rate it.
Can you see anything in Prisoner of Azkaban that's half related to this? I can see a couple of things. But
nothing. That's one thing I thought, actually. Well, because what you said that before when we were away, and I was like, I was just watching all the way through, and I thought I could see no connection whatsoever as to why they might have liked to have chosen Alfonso Cuarón to direct that film at all.
I can't
Good at directing young kids.
Yeah, it's young kids, and also I suppose young kids and the relationships with old people,
and going on an adventure. Yeah,
lots of relationships with old people.
Alfonso Cuarón is an expert in that field. Yeah,
two boys and a girl. Yeah,
2 boys and a girl. They go on an adventure. Right, Liam, your choice this week. So, what will you give Y tu mamá también?
7.9 for me.
7.9. I'm going to give it 7.1. Jem?
I enjoyed it. I would probably recommend it if someone was after a film of that nature and they weren't with their parents or something. I think it could have done a couple of things better, as we discussed. That ending didn't really need. It could have just faded to black with that waves scene. I think it would have been a bit nicer. But as we discussed, yeah, good acting. It was enjoyable throughout, so I give it a 7.4.
7.4. James?
7 dead.
7 dead.
You thought it was dead?
No pulse.
Yeah, dead film.
It was dead, was it? And Gub?
6.9.
Oh, there he is. Always bringing up the rear. 6.9 divided by 5 is a 7.2 for Y tu mamá también. Liam, are you disappointed with that if you gave it 7.9?
No, I saw all your ratings coming about 5 minutes into the review.
I'm sorry to let you down.
That's all right.
We're all pretty close, apart from Liam.
I think ending up on 7.2 is probably fair. Yeah.
I think for me, it was just fresh for me to see something where like anything goes. You don't see that many films where it's just like anything goes and it's not self-conscious about it. Like boys running around with their dicks out, smoking, shagging, spunking in swimming pools. I just thought it was funny, like how little regard it had for all of the respectable standards of most modern cinema. That's why I liked it so much.